I first saw it, I thought that this was a US-made, very advanced next-generation fighter, and in fact that this would explain all the UFO sightings. It was only later to find out that that wasn't the case.
Every now and then, something appears in our sky that refuses every familiar label: plane, drone, satellite. In early 2025, a glowing metallic sphere zigzagged over a small Colombian town, moved like no known aircraft, then crashed after striking power lines. Its journey from a ravine in Colombia to laboratories in Mexico revealed fiber optics, strange fields, etched symbols, and physics that simply shouldn't work. Some see it as proof of technology far beyond our own. Others insist it must be a clever hoax. This is the story of the Buga Sphere and the disturbing questions it leaves behind. The night sphere fell. On the night of March 2nd, 2025, residents of Buga in Colombia watched a bright metallic sphere across the sky. It didn't glide like an airplane or drift like a satellite. Witnesses saw it zigzag, make sharp turns, and jump in altitude as if it were scanning the ground. Several people filmed its strange dancing path. The display ended when the sphere slammed into high-voltage power lines. A blinding flash lit up the sky. Its glow vanished, and it plunged into a steep ravine. Outside town, local resident Jose Arias was among the first to reach the site. On the ground, he found a metallic sphere, roughly the size of a basketball, half buried in dirt and plants. Its surface was covered in intricate symbols, unlike any known alphabet, and the metal shell looked perfectly seamless. No welds, screws, or openings. When Arias picked it up, he felt something even stranger. The sphere was unnaturally cold, as if it had been sitting in a refrigerator. Instead of falling from the sky, realizing this was not ordinary debris, he contacted treasure hunter and blogger David Velez. Velez arranged X-ray scans with radiologist Dr. Jose Luis Velasquez. The images showed internal layers and structures that made no sense for random junk or a hollow ball. The sphere contained multiple densities and components, hinting at a complex interior design. The Buga Sphere had stopped being a local curiosity and become a scientific puzzle. Forensic study in Mexico. News of the sphere reached Mexican journalist and UFO investigator Jaime Maussan, who helped move the object to the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, one of Latin America's top research centers. At UNAM, scientists and engineers studied the sphere without opening it. Under a digital microscope, the real surprise appeared. Inside the shell, researchers saw what looked like a dense network of fiber optic wiring running from the inner surface toward deeper components. The fibers matched modern telecommunications lines and ended at copper pins embedded in the shell. The layout resembled a three-dimensional printed circuit somehow sealed inside a closed metal sphere. How such a system could be built with no openings quickly became one of the central questions. An impossible build from a manufacturing point of view. The Buga Sphere should not exist. Velasquez's X-rays showed no weld lines or seams anywhere, inside or out. Every known way of building complex devices, from machining and casting to advanced 3D printing, leaves microscopic traces here. Everything looked like one continuous structure. Tests suggested that the outer layer was made of a light, titanium-like alloy that resisted heat transfer. When researchers heated a section of the surface with a flame above 400 degrees Celsius, the measured temperature barely changed, as if heat struggled to pass through X-ray. Scans revealed three main layers with different densities. The middle layer was the most puzzling. Its microporous structure seemed to show self-healing behavior. When the team induced small controlled damages, the material gradually restored itself over about 48 hours. Near the center, investigators identified 18 tiny microspheres around a central core. Each microcomponent could be a specialized sensor or node in the internal network. The central nucleus, nicknamed the chip, showed the highest concentration of fibers and complexity to embed all of this inside. A seamless shell would require manipulating matter at a molecular or even atomic level, far beyond current nanotechnology. The Buga Sphere looked as if it had been formed as a single object in one step, with circuitry and microcomponents grown from the inside out. The changing weight. If the construction seemed impossible, the sphere's weight behavior made things even stranger. When Arias first picked it up in the ravine, He estimated its weight at around 2 kilograms, light for a metal object that size, but plausible. Once in Mexico, engineer Rodolfo Garrido began recording its mass carefully. Within days, the weight climbed from about 2 kilograms to 6, then 10, and eventually about 22 pounds. Through all these changes, the sphere's size and outer appearance stayed the same. Basic physics says mass cannot simply appear or vanish. A solid metal sphere of that diameter and apparent composition should weigh closer to 80 kilograms if filled with dense material. Even at its heaviest, the Buga Sphere was far lighter than that estimate. Garrido noticed that each jump in recorded weight coincided with subtle electromagnetic pulses. Even though no external power was being applied, it was as if the sphere were altering how much weight it showed to the scale by manipulating an internal field. Some researchers suggested that the sphere might not change its actual mass, but its interaction with gravity or inertia by locally modifying gravitational or inertial effects. It could effectively lighten or densify itself at will. That idea matched witness reports of its flight, abrupt turns and speed changes that would normally produce crushing forces, the ravine dead zone. The ravine where the Buga Sphere landed also behaved in disturbing ways. After the object was removed, investigators returned and noticed that the grass where it had rested began to die, even though the area received normal sunlight and rain. Over time, a circular dead zone about 3 meters in radius formed around the impact point inside that circle. The grass dried out completely instead of recovering, and soil tests showed extremely low moisture compared to nearby ground. It was as if water refused to stay in that patch of earth. Microbiological analyses made the picture worse. The usual rich community of soil, microorganisms had dropped to near zero. The soil behaved as if it had been sterilized. Radiation teams checked for alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron emissions. All tests came back negative. Garrido proposed that the sphere might generate an invisible energy field, perhaps a strong but decaying ionized environment that interacts aggressively with water molecules. Measurements showed abnormally high concentrations of negatively charged ions in the affected soil. 3 months after the sphere's removal, nothing had grown back inside the dead circle, the cold-hot paradox. From the first moment Arias touched it, the Buga Sphere felt cold, around 4 degrees Celsius. No matter what the surrounding temperature was, everyone who handled it described the same sensation, cool like the inside of a refrigerator. Infrared thermal imaging told a different story inside the sphere. Some regions registered above 150 degrees Celsius. Under normal physics, heat should flow from the hot interior to the cooler surface. No material blocks heat transfer perfectly. Yet the sphere's outer shell stayed steadily cold while intense heat seemed to exist inside. Experiments with water deepened the mystery. When researchers poured water onto the sphere's cold metal surface, the liquid instantly turned to steam, as if hitting something extremely hot to instruments and touch. The sphere still seemed cold, but the water behaved as though it had been poured onto a scorching plate. Some scientists suggested that the sphere might embody extreme thermal insulation, far beyond modern aerogels. Others proposed that the object actively managed heat, cooling its outer shell while concentrating heat in internal chambers, using a hidden power source and control system. Measurements found no clear energy input, but the steady 4-degree surface temperature looked intentional. Mysterious etched language. Etched across the sphere's surface is an intricate array of symbols, lines, and patterns. Some look mechanical, like dense circuit diagrams. Others are flowing and organic, curves, spirals, shapes that resemble calligraphy or biological forms together. They create a visual language that has drawn the attention of linguists, cryptographers, and engineers. Italian researcher Dr. Agnese Sartori compared the markings to some of Earth's oldest scripts, especially Sanskrit. She suggested that the symbols might encode an extremely ancient language about creation, harmony, energy, and consciousness. Others noticed that similar symbols have been reported in earlier UFO-related incidents, including the famous Rendlesham Forest case in Britain and reports linked to the 1947 Roswell crash. The recurring appearance of these patterns across decades and continents suggests to some a standardized system, either a universal language or a technical notation. Some researchers argue that the symbols might not be writing at all, but functional elements like etched pathways on microchips that both look like patterns and perform a role from that perspective. The sphere's markings could act as message, circuitry, and design at the same time. Origins and implications. Taken together, the findings from Mexico reveal a cluster of anomalies: seamless construction, self-healing materials, changing weight that seems to defy ordinary gravity, a sterilized dead zone, impossible thermal behavior, intricate symbols that may be both language and hardware, and an internal fiber optic network. Several theories compete to explain the sphere's origin. The extraterrestrial hypothesis suggests that the object is a probe from an advanced civilization sent to observe or communicate. Gravity, manipulation, atomic-level construction, self-healing materials, and integrated communication systems would fit technology far beyond ours. Another theory points to highly classified military or aerospace projects. In this version, the sphere is human-made, a black project using cutting-edge but undisclosed technologies. However, this explanation struggles with the extreme weight changes, the ionic dead zone, and the thermal behavior, which seem to violate known physics. A third idea is that the sphere represents ancient human technology from a lost civilization. Organic material found with it has reportedly been carbon dated to around 12,560 years old. If that date is correct and truly linked to the object, it would suggest advanced capabilities long before recorded history. Finally, skeptics such as Dr. Julia Mossbridge argue that the Buga Sphere may be an elaborate art or engineering hoax. She notes that no undeniable link has been proven between the glowing sphere videos and this specific object until independent groups, such as the Galileo Project, fully verify the findings. She insists, we must consider the possibility of careful fabrication. Whatever the ultimate explanation, the Buga Sphere has pushed researchers to take a fresh, evidence-based look at unexplained aerial and technological anomalies for once. The debate is not limited to eyewitness stories or blurry videos. The internal fiber optic system and other measurable properties give science something rare in this field: a physical object with testable features. Perhaps future analysis will uncover mundane answers hidden beneath hype or error. Or perhaps this metallic globe pulled from a Colombian ravine will prove to be our first real glimpse of a technology that does not originate from our current civilization. At all for now, the Buga Sphere remains an unanswered question, one that quietly challenges our assumptions about what is possible. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Epic Dive for more amazing documentaries.